Hi everyone and welcome. I've just arrived at my parking spot, my favorite place to go. It's 10 to 9 and it is minus 32 degrees outside. Brr. It's cold. Last night it was minus 32, 35 with a wind chill of minus 42. So that's Celsius, by the way. And minus 42 Celsius is around minus 43 Fahrenheit. So it's not far off from, damn, that's cold. I thought I'd bring you along for a little bit of my evening routine. As you can see, I'm wearing my winter coat. I've got a nice fuzzy hood for the Canadian winter. I'm going to be changing into a merino wool long sleeve t-shirt that I picked up, and I've got a thicker hoodie that I'm going to use, and I am wearing track pants, but I've been wearing them all day, so I'd like to change them while I'm changing and get more comfortable and put on some warm socks. I have a double size down-filled comforter, and I have a wool blanket, and it's olive drab, so I think it was an army issue. I picked it up at the Value Village, a secondhand store, and I was tickled pink when I saw it because wool is king as far as I'm concerned. And then I have another wool blanket that I believe is a queen size, and what I've done is I've folded it in half so it fits. So I basically have 3 layers of wool. Last night I slept really warm, almost too warm. But I kept waking up anyway because what was getting cold was my nose. I put my hoodie on so that my head stays warm. I learned last year that if it's really cold out and your head starts getting cold, you actually get a headache. And it hurts. It hurts your scalp because I guess it's just your scalp is starting to freeze if it's that cold. And so I've learned very, very quickly that you need a hat. And I was wearing a hat, but what I found was that in the middle of the night it would slip off. And I'd wake up because I had a cold head and I couldn't find the hat in the dark, being half asleep with a headache and getting colder because I'm searching around for a cap. And I very, very quickly realized that if I wear a hoodie to bed, I will never lose my hat. All I have to do is feel around the collar and flip it up again. So highly, highly recommend that if you're sleeping without heating in the car or in a bus or a van, have the highest quality, thickest hoodie that you can find. The other thing that I have is a pair of gloves that just help keep your hands warm if you really need it. Last night I didn't need them. Other than that, what I do before bedding down, I'll leave the car running and I'll leave the heat on. I'm quite warm in here right now, but I want to get the heat at the back because when you put your feet in, it's freezing. It is really cold. Last year I was using a hot water bottle. I loved using the hot water bottle, but the problem that I ran into was filling it with hot water. I had to rely on bathrooms that had separate taps, and I could let it run until it got as hot as it possibly could. Then I would fill up the water bottle, then bring it in the car, throw it down where my feet go, and it was so nice. It was pure luxury getting into bed, and that whole area was toasty warm. After my feet were warm enough and that whole foot box area of my bed was toasty warm, then I'd scooch the hot water bottle up to my back and go to sleep. And surprisingly, in the morning, it was still warm. I was really surprised that it held the heat all night. The other issue that I ran into last night in the cold was that I had woken up, my nose was so cold, so I had the blankets like this, and I was, breathing warm air and trying to warm my nose. That gets stale after a while. You need fresh air. So you try and sort of make the blankets sort of sit like this so that you're still getting fresh air, but the heat from your breath is warming your nose, and then you move and the blanket falls. So it was a struggle to keep my nose warm, but that was the only thing that was cold on me the whole night. I couldn't believe it. When I went to check the time to see if it was time to get up and go for coffee and, you know, go for my morning pee and everything like that, I grabbed my phone and it was so cold. It was like a brick of ice. And I thought, ooh, that's going to destroy the battery. And it's an old phone. And I finally just finished this month paying it off. I'm saving $30 a month. That's $30 in my pocket instead of the phone company. Anyway, so I noticed that the phone was so cold and I was concerned about the battery. So I just tucked it in. I just threw it in under the blankets. I figured I'll look for it in the morning. Now the other two electronics that I have in the car are my camera and my computer. Oh, and the other thing too that I have is my battery booster, which I need to check, and that's on my list of to-dos tomorrow. Hi, sorry about the interruption, but my phone died and stopped recording. Pretty bluntly, it was so cold that morning. The next night, I did the same thing. I was all bundled up. I had on a lighter weight hoodie than this one. And I slept a little bit colder, and I woke up a couple of times again, mostly because of my nose getting cold. Occasionally, the blanket would kind of slip off. It was cold. It was viciously cold. It is one of the most extreme temperatures that I've experienced sleeping in my car. It was minus 45 with the wind chill and minus 35 with no wind. I did not enjoy it. That's to say the least. I did not enjoy it. The next morning, I woke up at about 4. I had to turn the car on and I had to get some heat going in here. I was miserable. It was absolutely miserable. There was another vehicle that was parked and I noticed that their lights were on, so I knew their car was running. So they probably slept pretty soundly, but I was more concerned about gas. I'm not quite sure how much my car would use over a 6 to 8 hour period just idling. It's not really a safe thing to do, and that's why I opted not to run my car. Thankfully, the temperatures have increased dramatically. Today it's supposed to be up to something like minus 4 or 5. And those are very tolerable temperatures. That was a miserable night. And the next set of weather extremes that I'm going to be looking at is probably a few more nights with those low temperatures of minus 30 to minus 40, because we are northern Ontario in the middle of winter. It's February. And then in March, we usually have the ice storms. That I'm not looking forward to. And I'm praying that we do not get any of those ice storms, because I won't even be able to open my door to get out until the car's warm enough. Well, I guess that's kind of one of the downfalls of living in my car. Last night, it was minus 11, I think, somewhere around there, hovering in the minus teens. I was quite comfortable. I slept really well. As a matter of fact, I slept in. I was quite comfortable. I like sleeping in my car. I don't want to go to a shelter because I don't feel I need to go to a shelter. I'll leave those beds to people who don't have any kind of shelter, people living on the streets. I have my car. That blocks the wind, so all I feel is the dead cold. There are ways that I could mitigate the extent of the cold with my blankets. I still have 2 wool blankets in my storage unit that I'm not using, that I should go and dig out, but most of the nights are going to be pretty comfortable anyway. But those are the downfalls of living in a vehicle. The cold, and then in the summer, you're dealing with the heat. If you choose to stay in an area, or you're forced to stay in one area because of job like me, it makes it really difficult to escape those things. My tips to you are, number 1, make sure you have a full gas tank before you go to sleep. Watch the weather. Definitely watch the weather forecast. That's really, really important, so you know what you're dealing with temperature-wise. Warm yourself, not your environment. In other words, don't try and warm up this whole area. Just warm up yourself. Dress in layers. Wear a hat. wear fuzzy socks, wear gloves or mitts. Keep your nose warm. Somehow keep your nose warm. I'm thinking of getting one of those balaclavas that have the eyes and the mouth hole, and that's it. That would probably work. The only thing I don't like about those is as you're breathing out, the moist air from your breath condensates on the material around your mouth and makes the material very wet and uncomfortable and could freeze. I've opted not to do a balaclava and just deal with the cold nose. Snuggle in under my blankets a little bit more. But I survived. I'm very proud of myself that I survived because, yeah, I was, in all honesty, a little scared. More than a little scared. I had visions of not waking up as a solid block of ice. I can't control the weather, so I have to deal with it as best I can. I hope you have a wonderful day surviving the cold and enjoying yourself. I hope there's lots of sunshine and warm rays coming to you. And you all have a wonderful day.